useRef hook in React takes initial value and returns a reference to a mutable object with a current property that is persisted across renders. The API is simple, but the real story hides in the why. And there are two reasons why we use refs: for persisting values that we don't need to render, and for persisting DOM nodes. We'll examine both of them, covering basic mistakes and real use cases. The value of ref is persisted between renders just like state. So on each render it will be restored from React's internal memory. But contrary to state, setting new value doesn't trigger new render. So common mistake is to use ref for a value that you want to modify and then return it in your JSX. There is no new render, so this part of code will not be executed again and there will be no update in the browser. The real use case is for values that shouldn't trigger new render, so they are values that we don't use in the rendering code. For example, interval ID that we get from setInterval function. Here we only use it for a cleanup. So by storing it in ref instead of state, we are skipping unnecessary re-render when setting the interval ref current value. You should also remember to always access and set ref's values using current property, because interval ref itself is a wrapper object. React doesn't expose all native DOM APIs, so sometimes, somehow we need to reach for the real DOM node, for example to focus it. We could bypass React entirely and use vanilla JavaScript selector to extract the DOM node in useEffect. But it is an extra effort because we have to come up with a specific selector, and if there is any change in the underlying DOM structure, this selector might become out of date. But we can simply pass inputRef to the ref prop and React will handle finding and assigning this DOM node automatically for us. Important to note that we don't write inputRef.current in this particular case, we pass the entire ref object. But refprop works like this only for native elements corresponding to HTML tags like input or div. If we pass it to a custom React component like my input here, it will not get through props and will get an error. We can either use custom prop and name it ourselves, like inputRef here, or we need to explicitly opt in using forwardRef API from React and then handle passing ref from here to input elements ref. This explicit opt-in is a React way of telling us that we should be careful when exposing internal DOM nodes outside of our components. More advanced comparison between useRef and useState, particularly for persisting values, is something I have covered in detail in my other video that you can check here. Thanks for watching.